You know, hypnosis really starts when you see the advertisement. The advertisement for a hypnotist sets your imagination going. Then you might see a poster, and then you buy the tickets, and all that helps you to sort of get into the mood saying, well, I'm not going to be hypnotized, or he won't be able to affect me. But, you know, that is all part of it. And those people who sit there mentally with their arms crossed and saying, he's not going to get to me, actually help, because their mind is distracted, and so you can get to them much easier. But hypnosis is not something where you wave your hands mysteriously or dangle a watch. That's in the cartoons, and that's in the imagination of the public. In actual fact, it's the atmosphere that counts, the personality of the hypnotist, and the way he talks. Now, this is my first professional demonstration at the Electricity House in Cape Town. The only demonstration I had done for the public was on the ship coming over, but this one was an actual professional show where people paid to come in. When I got into the hall, I was surprised to see the average age of the audience, sort of middle class, mostly the medical profession, and more serious people than I expected, not many young people. During my stay in Cape Town, I got to know some of these people, and one or two of them even became my patients later on. As you start, you try and relax your audience, and the stage hypnotists, of course, carry out tests. For instance, they will ask the audience to hold their hands locked like this, and then they say, grip them tight, and you can't pull them apart. Now, if you actually do that now, you'll find that it does feel rather awkward and tight, and your muscles prevent you from unlocking them easily. But the hypnotist claims that it's his powers that is doing that. I actually do that test with my audience and then expose the fact that it's nothing to do with hypnosis. It is purely a psychological test. Mostly, hypnotists will ask people to come up who have reacted to that sort of suggestion. In my case, I say anyone can come up, and they will all be affected in some way once I explain what I'm going to do. Now, one of my tests is what I call the falling backwards and forward test. Somebody stands with their eyes closed in front of me. I suggest that they are made of metal, that I have a strong magnet in my hand, and they will feel themselves drawn back towards me, and sure enough, they do fall backwards. I catch them, of course, and then I do the same thing with the person facing me with their eyes closed, and they fall forward. And I do a different test of that type to each person that's come up to the stage. Another test that I do is to ask two gentlemen to come forward, and I place them in a very awkward position, sometimes even on one leg, like a statue. I put their hands up. On this particular photo, I've only just started on this one man. The other man is just being told to stand straight. And once I've got them in an awkward position, I place them on either side of the stage.
Start walking now. Much deeper sleep now. Much deeper sleep. Much deeper sleep. And you will stop right here. Much deeper sleep. You have nothing at all to worry about. You feel pleasantly relaxed. You will put one arm like that and one like that. And you're fast asleep now. Deep sleep. And you cannot move. Nothing will disturb you. You won't hear me until I touch you again. Sleep now. Deep sleep.
And I leave them there throughout my demonstration, which can easily be 45 minutes to an hour, and they stand there stationary like statues. And that proves to the audience that really something has happened that you couldn't do in real life. At the end of my demonstrations, I tell people to try it. Go home, stand with your feet together, close your eyes, and try not to sway.
No. Ladies and gentlemen, when you get home, stand with your feet together, close your eyes, And try and stay like that for half a minute. If you can, you're very good. If you do it for 1 minute, fantastic. 2 minutes, I don't believe you. These gentlemen have been staying here for half an hour. You try it, all right?
And then I wake them up and apologize that I couldn't hypnotize them, which they believe.
Wide awake now. Perfectly relaxed, nothing at all to worry about. Feeling very refreshed, very relaxed, and very happy. Very happy. You feel better than you felt for a long time, all right? Yes. You're going to go and sit down now, and whatever happens, you cannot remember anything from the time you came on the stage. Now, it's all gone. I'm sorry I couldn't hypnotize you, by the way. Thank you very much for coming out, all right?
Usually I say, what time do you think it is? And if we started at 8:30, they might say, oh, it's 8:35. But when they look at their watches, they find that it's about 10 o'clock, and they get a shock. And the audience laughs, of course, because they have been out of it completely throughout that time.
You can hear me. I'm going to count to 3. On the count of 3, you'll be wide awake, feeling very refreshed, very relaxed, nothing at all to worry about. You'll be very relaxed, feeling better than you've done for a very long time. And again, you will not know anything that has happened from the time you came on the stage. And you will be very proud of yourself that I couldn't hypnotize you. All right. 1, 2, 3. Wide awake. Wake up. All right? You feel all right? Yes. Thank you for coming on the stage. Very kind of you. You feel very nice.
As you can see, I don't wave my hands in front of people or swing a watch from side to side. I actually walk up and down just talking. And it was very important for me to explain that I was only interested in the curative side, the therapeutic side of hypnosis. But in order to give a demonstration, you do have to put some entertainment into it.
1, 2, 3. Leave it up. 4.
So in this case, I suggest various things to my subjects. Here, I'm telling him, when he opens his eyes, he will look at the audience, see that everyone's got a really long nose, which of course makes him laugh. And with each person, I give them a different example. At this point, I've actually woken them up, and each one of these people sees something else. As I said, some imagine that the audience has long noses. Some have even been told that the audience isn't wearing any clothes, and so on. And whatever I've suggested to them, that's what they see, and that's why they're laughing. Sometimes I give a group suggestion. Here, I've told everyone that they're watching a very funny film, and they all start laughing hysterically. And then sometimes I explain it's now changed to a very sad film, and they start crying or looking very sad. It really is quite impressive, because these are not actors, these are people who've just come up from the audience. On this clip, I've suggested that they should be washing themselves. As you can see, one man is still standing motionless on one side of the stage. He's there throughout the demonstration. This young lady hasn't reacted at all. She's got her eyes closed, but she's not reacting to what I suggested, whereas the other ones are all washing themselves vigorously. And a funny thing happened. As you can see, this man was wearing a white scarf, and without being prompted, this man suddenly got hold of this man's scarf and started using it as a towel, whilst the others are still washing. This young lady is still motionless without doing anything. And here, I've suggested they are all musicians. One is playing a trombone, one is a cathodrum, and one is a piano, and this man is vigorously conducting the whole thing. This goes on for quite a few minutes, and the audience finds it very amusing, but these people are convinced that they're actually playing this instrument. One very strong demonstration is to take one man and get him to stand to attention, military style, and then I say that his body has become stiff as a steel rod. And at that moment I get 2 tough men from the audience to lift him up and rest him on 2 chairs, neck on one side and feet the other. To save the chairs tipping up, I get 2 hypnotized people sitting on either chair to keep the balance. And there you can see the subject stretched out between 2 chairs, resting just on his neck and the ankles. And yet the 2 biggest men that I could find lean on him heavily and yet he doesn't sag. And of course, once I get him back to normal, he doesn't feel any after effects whatsoever. One of my final demonstrations is to ask the subjects to hold hands whilst they still have their eyes closed. I then go off the stage and tell them, in exactly 2 minutes from now, you will wake up, but you will be unable to let go. Your hands will be locked. I then talk to the audience in a normal way, maybe answering some questions, and suddenly, exactly 2 minutes later, they all open their eyes, but they find they can't unlock their hands until I go back on stage and release them from that, and they feel wonderful and relaxed and go back to the audience without any side effects. Of course, what I did not expect was the reaction I got. At the end of the show, I was inundated by psychiatrists, psychotherapists, nurses, doctors, counselors to say, oh, we have a patient that we would love you to treat, and we haven't got anyone like that here in Cape Town. And so I reluctantly started visiting people and having people come to me, but it wasn't meant to be a career, it just happened. And then the hospital asked me to come and treat some people who couldn't leave the hospital, and there were some women in childbirth and asked me to relax them, and people who were going to the dentist wanted some reassurance that they wouldn't be so worried about it. And so it became a career. I was offered a consulting room to share with an established psychotherapist in Cape Town, and we had lots of patients and some remarkable cures. I brought out a little leaflet on the therapeutic side of hypnosis to explain to people what can be achieved and what can't be achieved. And I had some interest from a magazine called Spotlight that featured a 5-page article on my work on hypnosis. They came to my consulting room to take some photographs. Here, for example, a subject that is very ticklish in the normal state had taken his sock and shoe off and was tickled with a feather, and under hypnosis didn't feel a thing. That's just a typical mild demonstration. These two people got completely drunk on just a glass of water by suggesting that it was actual alcohol. A young lady who was very sensitive to a flame of a match. Once hypnotized, you could hold a match or a candle under her fingers and she would not feel a thing. And this is a posed photo with the patient. Of course, we weren't allowed to show the face of the patient in my consulting room. Well, by this time, I had made quite a reputation for myself, and I had a request to do some more demonstrations. And they had just opened a new theatre, which was actually hewn out of a rock, and the whole atmosphere was, of course, quite different, and I had a much more serious audience. And most of these, I found out later on, were from the medical profession. This is my introduction at the Labia Theatre, just in front of the curtains. I gave a short talk about hypnosis and what the possibilities are and the therapeutic values. This is near the beginning of my demonstrations, when I suggest to each person something different, and at a certain signal they all see different things, serious or funny, dramatic or horrific, or very cartoon-like, but only the person that I suggested to will actually see what they have in their mind. As you can see, when I suggest that they're all brilliant pianists, they start playing. It doesn't work on everybody, as you can see from the last two ladies, but everybody else seems to be enjoying themselves. And this is at another demonstration. Again, some of the subjects react more than the others. An interesting test with some of the audience who have not volunteered is to get them to stand up, make a fist and start rolling it around. And they do that as long as I want them to, until I say reverse, and then the hands go the other way around, and they find that they cannot stop until I actually tell them to, then they can relax and sit down again. They're always very puzzled why they were able to do that. Another very dramatic test is to suggest to two men that a certain signal they will drop to the floor like a sack of potatoes. And this happens every time I give that signal. And when they wake up again and they stand up, they look very surprised that they had been on the floor. But as soon as I give the same signal, once again they drop to the floor like a sack of potatoes. As you saw in the electricity house demonstration, I do the catalepsy state of a man, and I demonstrate that 2 or 3 times to show that it could be anybody. There's one example. And here is another example. As you can see, I lean on him heavily just to show that there's no sagging. And finally, I will actually kneel on someone to show that they are as stiff as a rod and no bending will occur even with the weight of another human on top of them. Well, that was 1949 in Cape Town. Originally it was only going to be a short visit, but because of circumstances I stayed well over a year, going back in 1950. And of course the experience really enhanced my life. It was very satisfying to be able to help so many people, and I have a big file full of letters of people who thanked me for changing their lives. And of course they didn't know, but it changed my life as well. Well, I went back to England expecting to have to go back to work with my father in textiles, but I had no idea the many adventures that would await for me on my return.